Hi there, Stephen Thompson from Inside the Panthers. Hope you're having a good July 4th weekend. I wanted to take a minute to talk about some stuff because it was kind of a crazy week. For those of us who follow college sports pretty religiously, UCLA and USC announced that they would ditch the Pac-12 and join the Big Ten. Conference of Realignment is hitting a new stage, and we'll see some new changes in addition to Oklahoma and USC moving to the SEC like they announced they would last year. This move is coming in 2024, so it's a few years out. Oklahoma and USC are moving in 2025, so there's still some time before this stuff actually happens. But I think everyone around college sports can kind of feel the immediacy and the urgency. So I just wanted to talk a little about that and talk about where the kind of middle class of college sports, as it's been so called, that means really the ACC and the Big 12 and the Pac-12, but we'll talk particularly about the ACC, where they kind of go and what they need to do and what kind of situation they're in. So first of all, you can't talk about this without talking about the money. That is almost undoubtedly what this move is about. You can talk all you want about reputation and fit and all that stuff, but this is about money, no matter what really anyone tells you. The Pac-12 was lagging behind in revenue. And there was more money to be made by joining the Big Ten. And it's really that simple. People talked about geography and personality fit with UCLA and USC in the Big Ten. And I got to say, I don't think that matters all that much. I think they saw an opportunity to make a lot of money, and that's what they jumped for, which is nothing wrong. I saw Chris Peak from Panther Lair and Rivals say this the other day, is if it's about money, that's fine. Let's just be plain and open and honest about the fact that it's about money. I don't think anyone is disgusted by the fact that there's money going around in college sports. But when we try to do this fake, this, we put on this act about how moral college sports are, and we don't talk about money, and we don't pretend like it's not even a part of the game, kind of rhetorically and in our the way we treat it, but it's always there, and it's always present, and we all know it. We all know it, and it's very powerful. So at the very least, we should acknowledge it. But to that end, let's acknowledge the money. So these numbers are from 2020. I just got them from ProPublica. You can look up what every conference makes, brings in annual revenue. You can look at their expenses too. As nonprofits, they're required to disclose some tax documents. They're called 909s, but you can just look them up. So I got these from ProPublica. These numbers are from 2020, so they're a little different than, they're not, normal numbers. They are numbers that come from a season of football that's reduced by pandemic, season of basketball that's a little hampered by the pandemic. So it might not be the most accurate reflection of what these conferences bring in during a normal year, but they are still useful and helpful for helping us illustrate kind of the difference between these top tier of college athletics conferences and then kind of everyone else in the Power Five. So the Big Ten in 2020 brought in $768 million and some change. The SEC brought in $728 million and some change. The Pac-12 brought in $533 million and some change. ACC at $496 million, and the Big 12 at $409 million. So, like I said, the raw numbers are not exactly what you're looking at, but it's the difference. The $768 billion versus the $409 billion, or hell, even the $533 million. The Big Ten is a behemoth. Not only, and even more so than the SEC, they bring in $40 million more than the SEC, which when you reach $700 million, when you're nearing a billion, maybe that $40 million isn't that big of a deal, but still, that's not chump change. I have some theories as to why the Big Ten, makes a little bit more money than the SEC. I think they have a deeper reach into more sports, and they have, they also do have a larger base of teams and a more, I think, a more diverse set of interests that lend themselves to making more sports popular, and kind of drawing a similar level of investment that people put into football and basketball and hockey and stuff like that. But still, they are quickly outpacing everyone in the Power Five. They are a behemoth. And that is relevant because there is an increasing marginal value of just having one more dollar than else. So the fact that the ACC makes $496 million, that looks like a lot. That's a big number. But it's not really, again, about the raw numbers. It's all relative, especially right now. There is it's not just about being rich. It's about being richer than someone else. And I say that because this whole exercise is pretty subjective in a lot of ways. It has a bit of a high school lunch table feel where like the popular kids are looking for advantageous relationships and saying you can sit at our table and get the benefits of being at this table, reputation, money, status, all of that stuff. If you can do something for us, if you can kind of add to the clout and the power that we have with your name and your money, and then also how good you are at certain sports, but those all kind of go hand in hand. So expanding on that, this moment is really urgent for schools in the ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big 12. Because it seems as though we are kind of headed towards, inevitably, this kind of, I heard it referred to as college football Cold War, where you have two kind of polarizing powers, the Big Ten up north and the SEC in the south, that are kind of competing to pull everyone into their, both like the physical boundaries of their conference, but then also kind of a sphere of influence type thing. So it's important to do something now. First of all, like the ACC has to kind of come up with the next move, whether that's trying to lure Notre Dame in, trying to lure West Virginia in, going back out west and taking, Washington, Oregon, Stanford, trying to convince one of those, maybe even Arizona State, I'm not sure, to make a similar move as UCLA and USC and join your conference to kind of increase the power and reputation of your conference, and that hopefully will be enough to convince Miami, Clemson, FSU, some of these bigger schools, some of these schools that might have a chance to jump to one of these inevitable super conferences, the SEC or the Big 12 or Big 10, like we talked about, polarized world. Maybe that does it, but they could also, renegotiate their TV contract. That might happen if they're able to bring in more schools. That's a good kind of trigger for it, because the ACC has a notoriously bad and notoriously rigid, I guess, TV contract with ESPN. It just runs through 2036, and it's tough to get out of unless they bring in some more schools and change something up, so they kind of force ESPN's hand. So that's kind of what the conference can think about, big picture. For individual schools in the conference, this moment also is very urgent. And it has never been more important to win now, to show, especially because this is so driven by football, this fall is going to be massively important for so many schools in that middle class. The Pitts of the world, the Georgia Techs, the Louisvilles, the West Virginias, the Arizona States, the Stanfords, Oregons, Washingtons. Again, that kind of referred to it as the middle class of college athletics. Teams that are big, have some history, a good regional following, but are not national brands like Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, basically any SEC school that's not Vanderbilt. Most of the Big Ten, outside of like Purdue, even Indiana has a Northwestern. Yeah, that's another one that is kind of, in that middle class, but gets a little lucky because they've just been in the Big Ten for so long. But yeah, this football season, winning impressively is going to be super, super important. I think recency bias is a hell of a drug, and it will certainly help someone who's looking to jump to a new conference if they can put on a strong football season in 2022. And to that end, I would just hate to be one of these schools that's kind of in limbo or in a rebuilding process. Like Georgia Tech, if these changes are coming within the next few years, they are going to be left on the outside looking in. Same goes for Arizona or even Arizona State, which has been called literally the biggest dumpster fire in college football by opposing coaches. You would just hate to you would hate to be a coach that's not in a position to win now and win immediately and make your football program look as attractive as possible. Obviously, television viewers, donors, alumni bases, all that stuff. There's some real objective statistics and qualities that are going to make you a more attractive school to one of these conferences that is trying to bring you in and make you a part of the kind of next era of major college football. But I don't think you can underrate how important it is to win football games in 2022 and to show off a little bit, show off. So I think you're going to see that. I think tensions are going to run high during games this year. I think especially during conference play, teams are going to feel like they are fighting for their future, and it's hard not to see it that way. But it's a crazy world. It's going to get only crazier, and that's I made maybe a prediction or two here, but the reality is that no one knows how this is going to all shake out. We are still only 12 months removed from the beginning of 12 months and 3 days from the beginning of NIL, the beginning of players getting paid officially. So 12 months we'll be in a completely different place probably. But for now, this is what we've got, and this is where the ACC has to make some decisions and make some moves.